pulled, he was punched, and he was forced into the sujood position, and the policeman asked very ironically, "Why is your gun now?" And you can see the pictures on the internet. You can even hear Babar screaming. So he was interrogated and detained for 6 days. After that, he was released because there was no evidence against him. So he started his life again. However, 8 months later, he was arrested again, but that was on the request of the US government. Basically, during his first arrest, some computers and hard disks were taken away and were sent to America. Even though the UK didn't find any evidence to charge him with, the US did. And based on that, he's been detained since then. And basically, he's trying to fight this extradition order for 8 years now. That's about it.
Okay, look, we're going to come back to you, Ahnu, but Victoria, again, thanks for joining us. First of all, as a journalist, what is your involvement with the Babar Ahmad case? Is it a personal interest or...?
Well, when I first began to hear about the case and began to study it, which was about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I was completely staggered by the idea that somebody who the British had looked at evidence against him and found nothing, could then be the Americans could ask for his extradition. And this all rested on the 2003 Extradition Act, which is very controversial, and we're waiting now for a Home Office review of this act, because what it basically allows the Americans to ask for anybody from here, and it doesn't matter, they don't even have to tell us what they have.
Wow.
But the Americans have the right, which is not reciprocal. We cannot do the same the other way around. And there have been some other cases under this act which are very shocking. But Babar's case was particularly shocking because it had nothing to do with September the 11th. It had nothing to do with Al-Qaeda. It was only concerning a website about the late 90s war of the Russians against Chechnya. And it just seemed to me completely extraordinary that in Britain we would agree to the extradition of somebody on something that was so flimsy, so far away, and our own Crown Prosecution Service has many times said there's nothing about his case which deserves a trial. And very recently, in one of the cases that he took against the policeman who abused him, which Arno mentioned, for which, incidentally, the Metropolitan Police paid out £60,000 because of what their officers had done to him. In the latest case on that issue, the judge in the case said he was deeply troubled that somebody could spend more than 7 years in prison because of this Extradition Act. So I think the focus of the family's current fight to have a debate in the House of Commons on the question of this Extradition Act is absolutely the right focus. And I think it's really incumbent on all of us to try to get that debate, because it's hard to believe that the British House of Commons would go along with the Americans if they'd actually bothered to study this case or think about it.
I mean, that's very interesting. I mean, everything that you mentioned there, I mean, it's really beggars belief that, you know, the flimsy, you know, evidence which is there anyway, you know, he's there for 7 years, and, you know, I find it almost humiliating, really, to find that, you know, that Britain is allowing such a thing to take place. I mean, and obviously his family are suffering in the meantime, and obviously he's definitely suffering. I mean, it is very interesting. I mean, Ahnu, obviously I know you have many, you know, cases like this with caged prisoners, but this one here, I mean, you know, do you know, you know, for example, does anyone know the background behind Babar in terms of what he was like as a person, what he is like as a person?
Babar was really, really well known in the community because he was really involved in youth work and things like that. And he was basically an activist. That's what he was before his imprisonment. And that's why many people are behind him. He's really well supported, but still we're lacking signatures for this petition. Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about this petition. First of all,
Jamal, can I just interrupt
Yeah,
to say
of course
a few
you
things
can.
about,
Yes, please
about
do.
Babar?
Yeah.
Because sometimes he writes to me from prison.
Okay.
So I feel that I know him.
Good.
And I know his sisters, and I've met his father. And I can see that this is a very exceptional person. As Anu said, he's very active in the community. But beyond that, he's a very human and humorous person. And sometimes I've seen him in Long Lartin, even though I was not visiting him, I was visiting someone else.
Yeah.
And he always says hello in a very friendly way. And other prisoners have told me that he does things like they have a garden where they try to grow vegetables and flowers.
Yeah.
And Baba is the one who's doing that. And I can tell from the letters that he writes to me that this is someone with such a spirit that whatever the circumstances and however terrible it is being locked up so unjustly, he can always find positive things to say and to support other people. And I think, as you said, humiliating, I think that's a very good word. It's terrible that somebody who could so contribute to our society is left in this position.
yeah, that's a very good point.
But anyway, as you said, back
Yeah.
to the petition.
So we have this petition. So basically, I understand that you need 100,000 signatures. Okay, so what is the situation so far?
Last time I checked, there was just over 13,000 signatures, 1-3. There's 1.3 million Muslims in this country. If you do the ratio, we need only 6.5% of the Muslims living here to get the 100,000 signatures.
So what is entailed in actually signing this petition? What does one have to do? Do they have to go to some some address or something and sign something like this?
It's very simple. You do it on the web, and it takes not even 5 minutes, does it?
Yeah.
It's really quick.
So what on earth is the situation then? What is going on? Why are we only have 13,000?
We haven't told enough people, so we're hoping that your show is going to tell all these people who didn't know about it before.
Yeah.
And tell them all, if they haven't done it themselves, do it. But also ask all your friends and your aunties and your cousins to do it.
Okay, now, would there be any other reason? I mean, sometimes we have, situations where people are shy, or they feel that, maybe there might be some repercussions on themselves if they, sign something like this. I mean, what we understand here is, the evidence that you mentioned, why, America have now said we want to, have him extradited. It's something which, maybe people need to made to understand a little bit more about that, really. I mean, you mentioned that, Victoria, about it was just evidence to do with some...
Chechnya.
Yes.
Chechnya on a website. But in a sense...
And from a website.
That's not the issue.
Yeah.
The issue is he should have a trial in Britain. He's not asking, and his family is not asking him to be freed, even though he's done nothing.
Yes.
They're asking for him to have a trial here. And there's no reason for anybody to feel scared of saying it's right that he should have a trial. It's just such a simple thing to ask. I also think it's very important for people to know what would be the circumstances if he is extradited to America. Judging by other Muslims who've stood trial in America, there's two things. One is the pre-trial detention is very long and very harsh. But if he were to then be tried, there's a very strong chance that he would not have justice, as other Muslims haven't. And I'm sure all your listeners know the case of Dr. Afia Siddiqui, who was jailed for 86 years after a trial in New York in which no evidence was given against her.
Incredible.
It was merely her word against half a dozen American soldiers who contradicted each other. Now, this is not justice. And we can't allow Babar to be facing something like that. And if he were to be found guilty, he would be in what's called a supermax prison, in which the conditions are so terrifying, so much sensory deprivation, so long solitary, that it's almost impossible for anyone to keep their sanity. And nobody in Britain, if they knew about these things, would want British people to be going to America to face something like this.
On such sort of you know, shoddy, you know, weak, you know, evidence, one would argue, and you know, being sent into such inhumane conditions. Mr. Ahmed, you were going to say something?
Yeah, it's interesting to hear what the people who have been under that regime have to say. There's a man called Jamel Begal in France who has been detained under a similar regime, and had the chance to read one of his texts, and he's been tortured physically himself. However, he still calls it, that regime, he still calls it torture. And he explained the psychological effect of it. You start thinking about suicide, you start going mad. But also physical effect, his skin starts to decompose, he loses sight, because because there's no natural light. His muscle starts to become very weak. So as a psychological and physical effect. So that's the state in which Babar will be put in if he's sent to America.
What a change around that would be. I mean, this is, again, you know, brothers and sisters, this is why we need these reminders. We need you to understand that, you know, as a community, we are responsible. And, you know, we have a duty amongst ourselves to make sure that every person in our community is in a safe situation, that they're looked after. So what happens here is now, you know, as Victoria said, we're not, you know, it's not even to say that, you know, it's just, oh, just release him. You know, if there's going to be a trial, then let there be a trial, and let there be a fair trial as well. That's what we're hoping for. We've got a special message on the video as well from a few people that I know personally who put a message up. So hopefully we're going to get that soon.